And we've had all these amazing testimonials of people who are young, like in their 40s, and now we're seeing, cancer rates rising in the younger population, in the 30s and 40s. I mean, one was a 45-year-old guy who had prostate cancer.
What do you think's behind that?
Well, yeah, that's a whole other story. I mean, I actually did a whole podcast on this on the Doctor's Pharmacy, but I think it has a lot of things to do with our shitty diet, our change in our microbiome, environmental toxins, and also I think COVID has caused a lot of increase in cancer rates because it's dysregulated our immune system, and so right now we can't really do easily a whole metabolomic study, but I was talking to Jeremy Nicholson, who's a brilliant scientist from Australia who runs their National Phenome Project, and the phenomics is essentially like the current state of your biomarkers. Is what I would say is the expression of who you are in this moment, not your genes, which is your genotype, but your phenotype is the expression of those genes. So that includes, your metabolome, your microbiome, and every day your poop changes, right? Because you're eating different things. But the beautiful thing about this new science of phenomics, and Leroy Hood is also got a project in America doing this, is that you can look at thousands and thousands of biomarkers that normally you don't look at in medicine, but that have signals that mean something, whether they're inflammatory cytokines or other biomarkers. And he said to me that almost everybody with COVID, who's had COVID, has abnormal dysregulated immune systems and inflammatory biomarkers and things, even if they feel recovered and normal.
So this isn't like long COVID. This is a residual.
No, this isn't long COVID. This is that's a whole other, can of worms. And I think that's real too. And there's now biomarkers we can use to track that. So we're in an exciting era where we're going to be able to become the CEO of our own health, where we can optimize our health through being empowered with our own data, where we're going to be in a data-driven healthcare system, as opposed to this sort of hierarchical, paternalistic system we have now. We're going to be decentralizing healthcare, democratizing healthcare, and Function is really leading that charge. And it's for me, I'm going to be 65 this year, and I should be on Medicare and Social Security. But I'm moving to a new town. I bought a new house. I just got married. I had a new startup. It's like, let's go. Let's go. Because I think for me, I felt I built the Center Cleveland Clinic. I've written 1 million books, not quite 1 million, but you know what I mean. And I've been pushing this rock uphill, like this. I don't know if you're the myth of Sisyphus. And
of course.
Pushing the rock uphill. And it's it's been a hard journey, and what I realize is change doesn't usually happen from the inside; it happens from the outside. And so we're a health tech company that's going to be using tech and data to help you as an individual, guide you to what is likely going on in your body, be able to create predictive analysis of all the disturbances that may not be even considered a disease yet, right? If your insulin's normal should be under 5, but if it's 10, is that a disease? Well, not really, but it's not a disease we name, but it's a little bit high insulin. That means you're heading down towards diabetes, right? Yeah. So we're going to be able to see these slight transitions on this sort of trajectory from wellness to illness, and be able to intervene anywhere along on there, and give you a sense of what are your priorities, what are the things you should be focused on, and what to do about it, what you should do from a lifestyle perspective, what you should do from a further diagnostic perspective, what you can do from a perspective of systems approach to getting to root causes, and how do you optimize your health, and then maybe you need medication. Like we had one guy who was 35 years old, and he thought he was super healthy. He's super ripped, he's fit, he eats great, he exercises, he's really good. We did his labs, and his lipid biomarkers were just terrible, horrible. And it was genetic. And he had a Clearly heart scan, which is an AI interpreted heart scan. And we're going to be including imaging and everything in Function. And he has significant plaque, and he was heading for a heart attack. And this is a guy who just would never know.
FH? Familial hypercholesterolemia.
Yeah, and the familial hyperlipidemia or cholesterolemia is a singular condition with certain genes that are abnormal, but there's a whole variety of genes. There's this whole concept of polygenic risk scores. So the Human Genome Project wasn't really that helpful, it turns out, because it just gives a lot of noise and not a lot of signal. And the question is, which genes matter? What are the ones that really put you at risk for disease? Is it one gene? No, there's no diabetes gene. There's no cancer gene. There's no Alzheimer's gene. I mean, the presenilin genes probably are as close thing as you get to that. But even APOE4, I've had 95-year-old people with a double APOE4, and they're perfectly fine, and they're still working and cognitively intact, and they've been health nuts their whole life. So you can modify the risk factors, but polygenic risk scores are what we're going to be using to really look at where you're headed. For example, I did a very detailed lipid genetics because I have like horrible heart disease history in my family, like people dropping dead in their 50s and, bypasses and heart attacks and, and I was like, what do I got going on here? And I did this really deep genetic analysis that was just really around lipid genetics.
Was that Clearly?
No, Clearly is an angiogram. That's like they used to have to do an angiogram by sticking a catheter in your groin, threading it up to your heart, shooting dye in, taking pictures. It's kind of seeing if there's blockages. It's not that accurate. I mean, it can tell obviously if there's stuff going on or if you need a stent or whatever, but they then developed a method called CT, or a computed tomography, a CT scan using regular CT scan and using dye and then checking how your arteries look, and that's a great improvement. But then they developed another improvement, which is using AI to interpret the test, right? So think about when you go to the dermatologist, they look, oh, everything looks good, okay, fine. See you later next year. Or you go to the ophthalmologist and they look in your eye and, maybe they've seen 20,000 eyes. Great. But what if have they seen 1 billion eyes, right? Right? And so a radiologist, same thing. So now AI is going to be able to detect things in ways that humans just can't. And so we now can detect whether it's soft plaque or hard plaque. So we said this calcium score thing where you could look at your calcium in your heart and that gives you an idea. It's another CT scan, but that's old plaque. You don't know if there's any new plaque, and you don't know if it's vulnerable plaque. You don't know if it's inflamed plaque. So this scan can tell you that. So we're entering an era where AI is going to be involved not only in diagnostics and retinal scans and dermatology and radiology and cardiology, but also helping us to make sense of huge and enormous, dense, dynamic data sets, right? Because, you've got 37 billion trillion chemical reactions happening in your body every second, Max. And you're not special. It's like everybody's got so much going on all the time. You've got 100,000 petabytes of data in your microbiome.
Wow.
I don't even know what a petabyte is, but somebody told me that.
It's a lot of data.
It's a lot of things. It's a lot of petabytes, a lot of gigabytes. It's a lot of something. Terabytes. Petabytes is, 1,000 terabytes?
It must be one step above. I have no
idea. I don't even know.
Yeah,
see, I don't even know. But anyway, we can ask ChatGPT. Yeah. But bottom line, it's literally a shit ton of data. And what do you do? How do you make sense of it? So now, for example, we can measure in your blood like a handful of metabolites that come from your microbiome and know what's going on in the quality and the health of your microbiome by just measuring your blood, right? So who's going to make sense of all that? The medical system isn't incentivized to do that.
Certainly not your primary care physician.
No, not your primary care
They're
physician.
just not equipped to.
They're not equipped to. And even, the NIH, which is, you think should be focusing on this, Leroy Hood, who I was talking about, is just one of the most visionary thinkers in medicine. And he said to Francis Collins, who was the former head of the National Institutes of Health, we really need to be doing on this project, this All of Us project, which is a great project at NIH. It's a 1 million person project where they're collecting data across a wide swath of people, blood work and looking at their, disease risks and their diet and just collecting lots of data for research. And he says, we really need to do this phenomic analysis. We need to look at the transitions from wellness to illness. And he said to Leroy Hood, you know what? We study disease. We're not interested in health. I'm like,
yeah, it's crazy.
So nobody's studying health and nobody's studying wellness. Like, what scientifically does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? And where do you deviate from that? And how do you then, kind of recreate an equilibrium? Because we're all kind of degrading. Entropy is real. You're over 35 now, right?
I'm over 40.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, crazy.
You were like 20 something when I met you.
Yeah, when we first met. 29,
Can't keep up.
30.
Yeah, but I'm like, you're kind of going downhill, Max. I mean, it's just like
slowly but surely.
Yeah, entropy is real. But imagine being able to sort of know the things that really mattered. And I'm sure in your mind you're thinking, how do I not get what my mom had?
Yeah.
And how do I protect myself? And I know you're doing a ton of stuff to do that. But imagine if you had these large data sets where you have access to that you can add to over time that have a central place where you can track everything, that you could, it's a beautiful dashboard that shows your trend lines over time. I mean, I don't know if anybody realizes how analog medicine is. Like you think, every industry in the world is supported by tech. You can't run financial markets without computers, and nobody makes decisions about where to invest without deep analysis from computers. It's your car is run on tech, right? But if you're a doctor, you're basically you have electronic.
Your data's stuck in the dark ages.
Well, it's like you have now electronic medical records, but it's essentially a paper chart that's on your computer,
and
it's a PDF of your lab. So if I want to see, let's say you came to see me and you were my patient for 10 years. I'm like, okay, what are your trend lines of your lipids or your inflammation or this or that? And like, let me look at all your biomarkers in a way that I can actually see them in a second and look at them. No way I can do that. I literally have to go, let's go back to that visit in 2012. Let me open up that PDF. Let me scan it. Try to remember what I just saw in my head. Okay, jump to the one from now, compare it to that one, or maybe I have to write it down or have to take a note on the computer to do it. I mean, it's so bad, Max. You have no idea. And that's what we're solving for. Like imagine one place where all your data is stored, where you can share it with your providers, where they actually are supported. And we're going to be actually creating a portal for providers too, because, I want to have help as a doctor. If I have somebody come in with a complex problem, I want to know what the latest is on it. And I might not know because I can't know everything, and I haven't read everything, and I haven't gone to every conference and read every paper. So, imagine if I had a system where I can inquire and like, okay, here's all this data of this patient. What does it mean? What's going on? What are the probabilities? What are the likely best options for therapy? And it's quite amazing.
Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.